that sense of experiential atheism is actually much more disturbing than intellectual atheism.
Chairman?
May I? Of course you may. Responding.
It is Sunday. We've heard a sermon. That's great. The implication of what Richard has just said is that to be an atheist is to have a dreary, bleak experience where everybody's stripped of their humanity. I can assure him it is utterly not like that at all. In fact, human beings come so fully into focus, their concern, their interest, their needs. That's why so many of us on this side of the debate are so committed to questions of human rights, civil liberties, campaign for them, promote the idea of free-minded education for children and equality for everybody in this world. And we do it because we don't think that the responsibility for that lies anywhere other than in our own hands. Now I'd like to answer the questions, if I may. Don't think, just believe. Yes, that's one of the explanations for the persistence of religion. It reminds me of my favorite joke from Bertrand Russell, who said, most people would rather die than think, and most people do. That explains that one. I've got been a challenge to explain my criteria for truth. Truth is a very, very hard thing to find except in local empirical circumstances. Much, much more significant than that is rationality. And the word rationality is a very interesting one. First part of it, ratio, is about proportioning evidence to the conclusions that you derive from them. It means being guided by your very best exploration of the evidence, your very best, most responsible reasonings, submitting things to public test and debate. Rationality is the key. To behave, to think, and to believe rationally on the basis of the evidence, that is the surest path towards truth. You have to remember what Voltaire said. I will defend with my life the person who is seeking the truth, but I will not be so keen on the person who claims to have it. Finally, there is one big difference between Richard Dawkins and myself on the question of the 6.5 and agnosticism. I am not one little bit agnostic about fairies or pixies or goblins and so on, for all the other supernatural agencies that might be invoked. Don't forget, by the way, that fairies were very, very widely believed in this country until pretty recently. And the Irish lady I talked about earlier was by no means alone in that respect. The reason why you couldn't find your shoelaces and so on was because the fairies had pinched them. And one reason why the Church of England, in its great benevolence, instituted primary school education in the 19th century was to extirpate that kind of superstition about fairy kind of belief. Now, I'm not an agnostic about that, and for exactly the same kind of rational, I hope, reasons, I'm not agnostic about deities and gods and goddesses and the rest of it. And finally, consciousness, very briefly. If you want to investigate the relationship of consciousness to matter, and in particular the brain, just take a heavy, blunt instrument and bash yourself over the head and see which bits of thinking you can no longer do.
It's a terrible struggle here to balance reasoned comments from our very distinguished panelists and about 100 hands that are up at the moment, and I'm failing terribly all the time to try and get that balance. Let's take a question over here. A lady with a red hand up, or someone with a mic. Power is all. Got a mic, go. Yes.
Hello. More a question to the two gentlemen who argue for the motion. I got the feeling that you're a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more on the defensive in this argument. And I just wonder, maybe you feel that religion, mainstream religion, is losing the argument, and therefore you have to go a little bit more on the defensive, and perhaps religion, as it is, has lost its purpose at all in the way of explaining the world and the universe and binding society together. What do you feel about this?
And hold that, and we're going to take these in the sum-ups. Lady over there.
I'd just like to ask Richard Dawkins a straight question. He seemed to speak with some authority about what vicars are saying in their pulpits at churches. When were you last in a church?
And a questioner over here. Do we have someone with a microphone over here? Someone with a microphone, stand up. Go, anyone with a microphone. Off you go. Your moment has come. Let's go. Microphone, please stand up. Go. Ask. Yes. Please go. It's a question about silence. Yeah.
This is to Mr. Moore. You say the ground perhaps as if, like, we know, like atheists know everything, even though atheists and scientists only have theories, and yet you have the Bible, and that is the word, and you fail to accept anything else than that. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Now we're going to now have the sum-ups, and there's a premium here on doing it in 2 minutes each. I'm going to ask Richard Dawkins to begin by summing up everything you've heard and everything you want to say.
I suppose the two main issues that have come up are, first, the idea that we on this side are somehow bleak and empty, and the distinction that Richard Harris made about experiential atheism, the sense of despair which is supposed to afflict us when we lose faith. As Anthony Grayling has just said, it's nothing like that at all. On the contrary, it's a sense of release. It's a sense of freedom from an oppressive overlookedness. You somehow realize that you are free, you're in control of your own life, you are looking out at the universe. I think the chairman asked about, have you ever had a religious experience? I wouldn't call it a religious experience, but when I lie on my back and look up at the Milky Way on a clear night and see the vast distances of space and reflect that these are also vast differences of time as well, when I look at the Grand Canyon and see the strata going down, down, down through periods of time which the human mind can't comprehend, I'm overwhelmingly filled with a sense of almost worship. It is not worshipping anything personal any more than Einstein would have worshipped anything personal. It's a feeling of sort of abstract gratitude that I am alive to appreciate these wonders. When I look down a microscope, it's the same feeling. I'm grateful to be alive to appreciate these wonders. I know that I'm going to die and it's finite. All the more reason to appreciate it, to enjoy it, and to exult in it. Now, the other issue is the narrow one of the motion. Are we fundamentalist? I think it's probably fair to say that some of us are passionate, and that we are very deeply passionate. We care deeply about, for example, the truth, which I would define as that which is supported by objectively discernible evidence. We're passionate, and we may be passionate about some of the moral issues that arise. They haven't come up much this evening, but moral issues that arise when religiously influential people interfere with the private lives of others. I feel very passionate about that. But please don't mistake passion for bigotry, for narrowness, for arrogance, for fundamentalism. You can be passionate without being fundamentalist. There really is an important difference. I'm happy, indeed proud, to be passionate. I'm happy to be passionate about the truth. I'm happy, I hope, to speak clearly, but none of that implies fundamentalism in the sense of extremism, or in the sense of implacable devotion to some kind of holy book.
Richard, I let you run on there because you were briefer in your initial. Could I ask everyone just to keep ideally to 2 minutes in the sum-up comments, please?
I was very glad to hear what Richard Dawkins said just then, but I don't think that is the characteristic of his writing and preaching. And this is what we complain about with atheist fundamentalism, because though it's admitted that there may be a God, it's then immediately spoken all the time as if there couldn't possibly be one, and also no attempt is made to understand what religion is as it's understood by its adherents. Richard spoke eloquently of that sense of freedom. I do assure you that Christians believe that freedom. They experience that freedom. And I do assure you also that when they lie down and look at the Milky Way, they have comparable experiences. But I think that they have